everybody, and welcome to the Quilt Show. I know. Anyway, we are busy around the studio today, and the buzz is that our guest makes mosaic quilts that we have never seen before, and it's going to be unbelievable. Stick around. It's a new day for quilting with your co-hosts on the Quilt Show, Alex Anderson and Ricky Timms.
Welcome to the Quilt Show, everyone. We're so glad you're joining us today. And audience, what do you think of the quilts when you walked in?
Right. Apparently, according to Justin, we're going to be very busy today.
Yes, we are. And the quilts truly are unbelievable.
They are, absolutely.
But up top, Ricky, you're going to share a technique. Actually, it's a nod to Libby Lehman.
It is, yeah, absolutely. What I want to share with you is just a fun project of layering and montaging, and there's some little tips and tricks along the way that I think you'll enjoy. We actually started to name this segment Taming of the Shears, yeah. But it's not going to be just about the shears. Let's just take a look at what I've been working on. This is a quilt top in progress, and because I'm doing a lot of free motion applique, raw edge applique, I'm going to do some couching, and we're doing some free motion stitching. I've started all of this on a layer of Ricky Timms staple stuff poly. You need a stabilizer.
Idea. Yep.
And I know a lot of stabilizers are possible. The reason I like this is because it's a polyester-based stabilizer. It's sufficient to do the job, but it will soften if you immerse this in water later.
So what if you didn't use a stabilizer? What might happen?
The fabric is just going to start scrunching up with all of the free motion stuff that we're doing. So stabilizers are really important. And even on this one right now, I see it's not like a board, but I know that it's going to press out and it's going to quilt down beautifully.
I didn't even realize it was underneath. And when you show it, it's like, because it would go crazy.
It will. So the first thing I want to talk about is that I'm going to begin with some fabric. And I use my hand-dyed fabric, as you know, but that doesn't mean that you have to. Mm-hmm. You can use any fabric you like. And it's really simple. I mean, these designs that I've done, for example, let me grab a piece of scissors here. A piece of scissors. Let me grab a scissor to cut this out. But if I wanted to cut a leaf on this, seriously, people, this copyrighted design, right there.
You better get yourself a lawyer.
Right, so I cut out a leaf. Now, when I do the applique, I do use a little bit of glue baste it because I just want to hold it in place. And as you begin building this, you may not have anything to overlap, but as you continue to build it, you may want to start seeing some overlapping, because that's what this is all about, is building layers upon layers and kind of seeing things that are far away and things that are close.
Well, this is so much fun, and my question would be, how do you know when it's finished?
Well, in first grade, it would be when the teacher takes it away from you. But I suppose you know it's finished when it feels like it's finished, and you can just keep going.
Actually, you've been working on this during breaks for quite a while. You go, I'm done with it, and then I see you back out here doing your thing.
I'm back at it. I want to just point out some stitching that I've done. On the applique with the actual fabric, because it's raw edge, it's not fused, it's just stuck down with a little glue stick, I have done a little scribble, free motion, just a little feathering on the edge of this one, okay? Now, as we move to the orange one, you'll see that it still has its raw edges. They're even picked up a little bit. Maybe they'll fray, but I've also come in and added a little bit of stitching, which I could do now. I could also do that in quilting later, or I can do it now and add more later. It doesn't really matter. And I've just stitched in some little circles. So that was the first thing I did, is I put some real fabric down. Now I want to move to the shears, because the shears are really a problem thing for quilters. And they're not a typical fabric that we would use, but because I'm trying to create this transparency and illusion, I want you to look at the things that I found. And I found this at Joann's, so you can find this at any sewing center probably. And I found these two, this pink one and this green one, that I really loved them. And when I looked at the tool, I've got a green tool, I've got this sparkly purple tool, I've got this pink tool, and then look at this iridescent. It's just,
what is that stuff, I wonder?
Fabric. No, my guess it's a polyester, because that's what that kind of stuff is generally made of. But look at all that wonderfulness that's going on.
I think if you hadn't bought this, it'd go to a prom dress.
Probably,
Yeah.
or Halloween costume. I mean, cosplay's big.
Oh, that's
so
true.
you've got a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on. I want to come back over to the quilt because I want to layer some of these down. This is the sparkly purple, and while it looks amazing over there in a bundle, it's kind of starting to get a little bit lost over here, especially this purple on the dark blue. And if I come over here, you don't see a lot.
Put it on the green just to see the difference.
Well, yeah, so there you would see a little more happening here. It shades it down a little bit. And then if we come here, I'm gonna show you that this one is actually the pink. And you'll see that this pink, that's what this is.
Kind of pulls back.
It is so subtle. So if you want subtle, and I'm letting the stitching do most of the flower, but I do have an element of transparency. And then with other ones, I mean, if I took the green in here, it's going to show up a little bit more. Then I love what these guys did.
Yeah.
These are really fabulous. I used the pink one and the green one.
That's these two,
and that's
right?
what I'm going to
These
use
two,
for the
right?
sample.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So they look a little stronger when you see them on the bolt or whenever you grab them like this. They're going to be much more subtle. So all I need to do is I need to get a piece of this. Let's find an edge. Anywhere. It's a Medusa, to be honest with you. And I'm going to use my iron on a medium heat setting. This is another very copyrighted design, so be sure that you are careful about that. I'm teasing, obviously. They're out there, oh, is it really? No, just cut something out. And I've cut it out of freezer paper, all right? So you can draw your design on freezer paper as you wish. The freezer paper is the critical part to this. And it doesn't take much to just set this down. And
Again,
it's now
a medium heat.
a medium heat, because you know what, you can't cut this out easily.
Sure.
So the first thing that I do is I take my scissors and I will rough cut this out. See, it was even stuck a little bit because there's space underneath there.
Should I even tell you that there's glitter on your face?
I'm not surprised though. Do I look good?
It looks really good.
Yeah, thank you.
I pay money for that.
Yeah,
You know?
I'll tell you what, apparently people do. So I'm gonna cut this out just so I can manage it, and as I continue to cut it out, I've got this one started. I want you to notice that my design is a little smaller than the finished one that I want. I need a little bit
a little bigger.
My design.
Well, the design is smaller,
yeah,
but the fabric's
paper is a little bit bigger, and I'm cutting this out with about 1/8 of an inch surround. And this is how you can tame the shear. With my nod to Shakespeare today. All right, so now, Alex, where do you think I should put this guy?
Oh, wherever. I mean, it's wonderful.
Yeah, is that okay?
Sure. What do you think, everyone? Right here, maybe? Let's take a look. Or down here.
Boy, it's just really critical. It's really, that's a really tough decision, isn't it? Okay, the point is anything works. Now I've got my machine set up for free motion stitching, and what I'm gonna do, and I actually have a pink thread in the machine, I'm simply gonna start quilting free motion and stitch around the edge of the paper. And you know what? If you bite into the paper, it's not to the world.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can
tuck
see you're
out.
stressing out for accuracy.
And I did bite into the paper twice already, but that's no big deal. I'm gonna come around.
I mean, Ricky, this is just playtime.
Well, I enjoy it a lot. Many people in our community know Libby Lehman, and this is kind of from, like I said, a playbook from what she's done. And when I did an auction quilt to help Libby out, this is the techniques that I went to. They were not things that I had done, but I loved it so much.
But did you call and get permission to use her splat? Because that's what she calls it, her splat.
Right. So now I'm just going to remove the freezer paper, all right? So it's caught in a few places. And if you can be smarter than me, you could reuse this. But I'm kind of tearing it apart right now, so I just get in there. All right, let's not worry about saving that design just for the sake of time. All right?
I think you can come up with another one.
Right, but what I do now is I'm going to come in and secure it a little bit.
Man, that looks so good, that fabric.
And we need a little center, so I'm just going to go ahead and make a little center in there.
Okay.
All right, now that's stitched, and that's how we tame the shears.
Okay.
Okay. So you okay with that, everybody?
Yep.
All right. And I love the transparency that we just created, the sheer over the sheer. I mean, all of that is starting to be a really cool element in the quilt. The other thing that I did on this that I wasn't planning on teaching today, but since we have a smidgen amount of time left, I wanted to tell you what I do to actually to outline these. You'll notice that I went ahead and outlined these leaves that are on here, and I've got one that's not done. I'm using yarns, and honestly, I just went to the clearance table to get some yarns.
Nothing too exotic here.
Nothing too exotic.
The colors are kind of woo.
And every machine company brand has a couching foot. Many of them now, Bernina was the predecessor for the free motion couching foot. And to be honest with you, I'm gonna say, well, I don't have one with me today.
So we have to tell that story since it's Libby. Bernina's always looking for ideas, and it was Libby that came up with the free motion couching foot.
Well, yeah, the engineers were saying, what would you like?
Yeah.
What can we make for you?
And so she told them, and the engineer said?
Well, she said, I want a free motion couching foot. And they're thinking very carefully, because a regular couching foot has a hole in the front and you use a zigzag foot, a zigzag stitch.
Right.
But a free motion couching foot. And they looked at Libby and they scratched their heads and they says, well, how would we do that? And Libby said, I don't know. I'm the idea person. You're the engineer. Yeah, and they did come up with it. All right, this is the one I want to do. I put my green thread in, and I've got my machine set up for a zigzag stitch that's probably about 2.5 wide by, let's say, 2.5 long. And I'm gonna, this is with no fancy foot. The only foot I'm using here is an open toe, so I can see in there.
And everybody's got that.
Everybody's got an open toe. And I'm simply gonna start that zigzag. And what's my length? Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm simply gonna lay that down and zigzag along that edge. I'm not saying this wouldn't be easier if I had a couching foot, but I will say, because I didn't have one, I'm showing you an option to be able to outline this applique. Now here's a critical piece, I'm almost done. I'm to the tip, and I wanna turn this corner, so I'm going to make sure that my needle is on the left side. It's on the left, it's zigged to the left. Why? Because when I raise my presser foot and I wrap this around, when I pull this around, it's now around.
Oh, you can pull on it.
Yeah, and it's around the needle. If it was on the other side of the needle, I couldn't do that.
So show it one more time, okay?
Okay, so I finished this with my zig on the left and to the left of the thread.
Right.
So that when I raise the presser foot and pivot,
it goes around.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That is a good tip.
So I'll finish that off. It's not taking any time whatsoever. And I don't know if you know how tricky I'm being here, but every one of these long, elongated leaves that I'm doing are all starting and finishing on the edge of the quilt, so I don't have to pull this to the inside. Now, you could pull it through the inside, get yourself a doll needle or a lasso and pull it through if you needed to, but all of mine
I kind of like this approach.
Are starting on the edge and going off the edge. So just fun techniques to use on your quilt projects, and I had a lot of fun just playing, and that's what this is for me, playtime.
So what do you think, guys? Yeah. Super fun. Okay, time to move on, right?
Well, we're gonna get busy.
You're right, and see the unbelievable quilts of Heidi Proffetty. Stick around. They say, Ricky, that diamonds are a girl's best friend.
So I hear.
Yes. Well, MJ Kinman is on the next show, and she's going to show you if you can't buy it, you can quilt it.
MJ has been so entranced with gemstones that she's devoted 2 decades of her life to piecing these dazzling divas together.
This is an amethyst block. She used the purples and the lavenders of the amethyst, but then she used the other side of the amethyst block in citrine colors.
She'll show you how to get started with your own birthstone.
Plus, how does she get that light to dance across the surface of these gemological wonders? She's revealing her secrets.
And then our cameras take you on a tour of the Iowa Quilt Museum.
A true gem of the Midwest. Join us.
When I walked in this morning and saw these quilts, Oh,
It was
right?
very exciting. They're mosaic quilts, and our guest today that's going to share all of this with us, please welcome to the Quilt Show, Heidi Proffetty.
Hey, Heidi,
welcome. I love your quilts.
Now, you've been a quilter for quite a long time, but there was a light bulb moment, and before we talk about that, because I think is extremely significant, let's look at some of your work so we can all connect with what's going on here.
Sure.
Okay, so the first quilt here, tell us about it.
Okay, so that quilt I created based on a photograph that I took of my daughter who was 12 turning 13. And I titled it Blossom because she was blossoming into a beautiful young lady. And so that was kind of a posed photo, but
I thought it was a self-portrait, to tell you the truth. I mean, she looks
She
just
looks
like
a lot
you.
like you, and
Yeah.
you've done a remarkable job with the likeness. I want to point out that these are mosaic quilts.
Yes.
And that's really kind of right now where you're at.
Right.
Right? So the next mosaic set of quilts is the beautiful lady, and they're kind of a companion pair of quilts.
yes, so the one on the left it's called Dress Me Up, and it was created for an exhibit, the Brush Art Gallery. And it was based on one photograph. The lower half, the second quilt called Stepping Out, actually was all one part of that all one photograph. And I separated it out into two quilts.
What I think is so unique about these quilts and art pieces is that the pieces are all different sizes. It's not, the ones I have seen in the past, or I would say that I'm familiar with, are like squares or whatever, but these are a montage of shapes.
Yes, and you can see that in the other quilt. Everybody Loves Somebody, which is the one of my daughter holding a bunny rabbit. She has an affinity for fuzzy animals, a love for funny animals. And the shape of the mosaics that I started in that quilt, these are my earlier quilts, was very rectangular or square. And as time went on, I kind of liked a little more of a irregular shape to the mosaic. And that's where some of my more modern work falls now. It's more of a regular shape.
Let's show one more quilt before we get into the story, okay? Because this has a wonderful story behind it.
Yes. So this is a Cherrywood Challenge quilt. This is called The Calm Before the Roar. And
What was the challenge? Which one?
This is a Lion King challenge.
Oh.
You see the lion, Alex?
Yes, yes. Okay.
And audience, do you see the lion now? Yeah, it's wonderful.
And this is a lot of fun. I like to enter this challenge annually because it really, you're limited on the number of fabrics that you use and the size of the quilt, and it kind of gets me to step outside my box a little bit. So
That's great.
Yeah, if you ever have the chance to see one of the Cherrywood challenges, it'll blow your mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we've seen the mosaics, let's talk about your artistic voice and where that path came from.
Okay. So about 6 years ago, I actually had attended the New England Quilt Show in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I was walking around at the end of the day after taking a bunch of classes. I walked around the actual quilt exhibit, the show itself. And I had actually never been to a really large venue like that. And I'm going up and down the traditional quilts and the whole cloth quilts, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And then I came across a section of quilts that looked like realistic photographs, and my jaw nearly hit the floor because they were just so inspiring to me. And at that point, I think that was when I really realized that I wanted to try art quilting, and I wanted to base it off my photographs. But you don't really know where to begin.
Exactly.
And so when I found out who put on the exhibit, it was put on by SAQA, Studio Art Quilt Association. I made my way over to their booth, and the representatives in the booth put me in touch with my local regional rep for the SAQA area where I lived, and her name was Sue Blywise.
Who's been on the show?
Right. She's an award-winning quilter and just a fabulous person all around.
Well, I didn't even know they had regional reps. That's news to me. Okay.
So Sue and I connected by email a few times, and she asked me to come to one of the SAQA quarterly meetings. And it was a few months away, and I can actually remember this very clearly, that we were getting close to the date, and I actually wanted to back out because I had no real art quilts. And she said, no, you gotta come, just come. So we worked together for a few months before Sue put out an email to all the SAQA members that they were going to be starting a pilot mentorship mentee program. And Sue sent me an email and said, you should join, you should fill out an application and consider becoming a mentee. So, and that's exactly what I did. And a few months later, in November, I got the email that I would be paired up with Sue.
Yay.
And it was just fabulous
now,
for me.
she started talking about your voice.
Yes.
And you went to a sewing event. Tell us about that, where the light bulb went off.
Yes, so I worked for a sewing machine dealership at the time, and you get to go to educational conferences. And one of the conferences that I sat in on was about a 3-hour conference on a digital cutter. And I got to see this machine cut intricate, beautiful shapes with just precision out of all kinds of materials, and fabric being one of them. And as I was sitting there, that's when the light bulb went off. Sue had given me the input to, you need to find your creative voice. What's going to make you happy out there in creating these art quilts, something that makes you unique. And when I saw that digital cutter and started thinking about the possibilities of pairing that with mosaics.
And your photography.
And photography, it just...
It all came together.
That's like magic.
It was.
Total magic.
It really was.
So the quilts we've been looking at now, the secret is out of the bag, is that these are cut using a digital cutter.
Yes,
and that's why the shapes are so perfect. And now this takes you to big prize-winning quilts, which let's look at 2 of them. The first one.
That is Daddy Hold My Hand, and that quilt is of my husband and my daughter, and we were out just having a family event, walking the cliff walks in Rhode Island, and I was just lagging behind a little bit, and I took a photograph of them and absolutely wanted to create an art quilt out of that.
It's just beautiful. The lighting, the emotion is what's wonderful, right? And then a companion quilt, sort of, because it's still family, right? Is that...
Blossomed and Daddy Hold My Hand were the 2 quilts that won at Houston, prizes 2nd and 3rd. The larger quilts, the one of the mother and the daughter, is actually of a photograph that I took recently down in Cape Cod. And this mom and this daughter were fooling around with each other in the restaurant, and then for just a brief moment they stopped and they gazed into each other's eyes. And I just happened to have my camera there right at that moment, and I just look at that photograph and I see that love between a mother and a daughter, and knew I had to make that into a quilt.
That's wonderful. What do you think, everyone? I mean, it's almost so mesmerizing sitting here looking at these and the emotion behind them, but we are so excited with what you're going to share, because when we come back, you're going to talk about the digital cutter, that is very accessible and usable, and Alex, I think you're the lucky one to get to do this.
Very excited about that.
So don't go anywhere. We'll learn more about digital cutting when we come back.
I am really excited about this segment because you are going to teach something we haven't seen before, and it's digital cutting.
Yes.
And so what's the difference between, say, a manual cutter, like a Go, or, that we crank, you do multiple layers, versus digital cutting? Explain that to me.
Yes, so a digital cutter gives you the flexibility of creating your own design. So you can hand draw a design and bring that design into the computer and trace your design. So you can create your own pattern. So that's a huge benefit.
And it's 1 layer only.
1 layer at a time.
Right. Now, to me, this is something that's kind of entered into my wheelhouse in the last year or 2. I don't have one, but I'm very, very interested. How long have they been around?
They've been around in the scrapbooking industry for maybe 10 to 15 years, but I think, now in terms of cutting fabric and introducing me into quilting, that's really starting to take off now.
And you can do fabric. You can do paper.
You can do paper. You can do light balsa wood. You can do thin sheets of metal. You can do stencil, plastic stencil. Just a wide range of materials that you can cut. You can cut vinyl. for heat transfers if you wanted to do that too.
Okay, so what you guys need to know is that there is a reason we're being silly about bees, because you are a beekeeper, and we'll talk about that in the after set, but you love bees. You have a passion for them, and that's kind of what we're going to be working on, a pattern with bees.
Right.
So let's take a look at this. Tell me about this, please.
Okay, so I wanted to create a pattern that would showcase some of the nicer features of a digital cutter. And at first I sparked a little inspiration by going out to my field where we keep the bees, and I took some photographs of clover. And I knew I wanted to draw some clover into my design. Then I went and created a shape, a background shape, a honeycomb. And this is a hexagon that I just simply drew on in the software of the program.
And we'll show you that in a minute.
And then this design here is a graphic, a free graphic, a vector graphic that's brought in anyone can get online. And I bring that into the cutter program, and it will trace it automatically. So that's a really nice feature as opposed to what I do, which is I trace all of my designs manually.
So whatever you want to do,
endless possibilities.
you can do.
Yep.
Okay, so this is really Digital Cutter 101. So you need a digital cutter
Yep.
and a computer.
And a laptop, yep.
Okay, show us so you hook them up, right?
Yep.
And can they go wireless?
Yes, so let's talk about the cutter for a second.
Okay.
So it's about the size of a home printer.
Okay.
And it weighs about 14 pounds, okay? And
Not bad.
it has a cartridge or a head that is similar to a printer, and it will ride back and forth from left to right with a blade holder.
Okay.
And I'll show you that. So this is the blade holder. And you simply take the blunt end of a blade and you put it into the blade holder. It's magnetized, so it just sucks right up in there. Yep. And then you can dial to being your lightest fabrics or thinnest materials to cut, all the way up to 12.
So balsa wood might be 12?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Do those things need to be replaced, or does one last forever?
So the holder itself is fine. Your blades, you have to think of like your sewing machine needles when they start to get dull. And you'll notice this when you go to make a cut, you'll get a little bit of sticking or some pulling on the fabric, and you won't get a nice clean cut. That's when it's time to replace your blades.
So you buy it in a package or whatever like that.
Right,
okay.
in a package.
Then you tighten.
Then you would set it in the blade holder, tighten the screw, and then for fabric, it's somewhere between 3.5 and 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. So now let's go back to the computer. This is a PC. Could you use a Mac?
No, this is not Mac compatible yet. Okay, but there are some workarounds with that, and Mac people can help you out with that.
Right. What, parallels or something?
Parallels,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Yep.
So here's what I look at on the screen.
Yes, so this is the canvas. This is the software program opened up now. And the first thing I think I'll show you is these are the tools on the left-hand side. So this is my select tool, and these are some drawing tools, a measuring tool. This is an outline tool, and this is my shape tool. So I'm gonna come down to this, because I'm gonna show you how I created those hexagons. When I click on that, it now switches to the shape button. And you can pull in your hexagon. And up here in this little box, you can see
upper left,
you have some customability, because you can change this from a 6-sided to 7 sides, 8 sides, whatever you want to do with that particular hexagon.
Now this particular program is married to that.
Yes, so
right?
when you purchase this particular digital cutter, it comes
this is by
bundled.
Janome. This is by Janome.
Janome Artistic Edge. This is the 15-inch model. It comes bundled with the software that you need. That's all you need to purchase is the cutter.
How many different brands are there out there? I mean, there's quite a few, right?
There's quite a few.
Okay.
I can think of a couple, Cricut and Sizzix, Cameo, Silhouette. Brother. K&K, there's a whole wide range of them.
But this is all kind of generic and the same thing, right? I mean, you have to play on it a little bit.
Yes, each are going to come with their own softwares, but the concept is basically the same. Okay. Also, it's good to know some other things about a digital cutter in terms of cost. They range anywhere from $200 all the way up to $1,000. So you want to consider your budget. You also want to consider the cutting force on a digital cutter. This one cuts at 750 grams of pressure. So I find that's perfect what I need to cut fabric. Someone else who is maybe quilting with wood or thicker materials or light sheets of metal might want to have a cutter that has a little more pressure to it.
Okay, so you've got some things in here that are like pre-packaged or whatever, but I want to cut a stem, let's say, all right? So what do we do?
So the first thing I do is I will draw whatever it is that I want to draw, a pencil drawing of it. And then I will take, I'll either scan this on a scanner or bring it to my copy shop and make a scan of that and put it on a USB stick and bring it home.
Okay.
So once I have the design scanned, I will load it into my program as a backdrop.
Okay, let's take a look at that, all right?
The photograph of it's imported it as a backdrop.
So how come it's so light? No, it's going darker.
When you actually are hovering over it and you select it, it will show up, it'll appear darker, that's all.
So this, you say, okay, computer, go over to my scanner.
Yep, so this design's already been traced. So just to let you know that, this design's already been something I've already spent the time tracing my pencil drawing of. So this is ready to go to the cutter now. So you would click on File and export to your cutter. That's it. As simple as that.
All right.
And then you pick your cutter. This software program that comes bundled, Simple Cuts will work with other cutters. So using your Cameo, Eclipse. Okay.
Then how do you prepare your fabric?
Okay. So I use starch to prepare my fabric. You want it almost like a paper consistency. So
that's not that stiff, though.
No, this is not. That one is. So if you're going to cut, say, a really small or intricate details, use the Terial. I recommend you use the Terial Magic because that really gets it almost paper stiffness.
Right. I felt it before. It's like, wow. So when would you use the generic?
Almost all of the time, even for all of my mosaics, I will use the spray starch.
Okay. So it's your tools. And then what is this?
So this is Steam Light 2. And I prefer to use, it comes in rolls or sheets, and I prefer to use rolls. And it has 1-inch grids on the back of it, which help me figure out how much fabric and how much adhesive I need in order to cut that.
How do you know that? Does it tell you on it?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a great feature. So if you select the stem, you can go up here to this box and you can see that the width of this stem is about 4.5 inches and the height of it is just a little bit over 13 inches. So the first thing I'll do is I will go to Steam and I'll count out, in this case, 14 inches or 13.5 inches and 5 inches wide. And then I will take my fabric. I'll have a fat quarter or half yards of my batiks that I like to work with, and I will just fussy cut around that. So I have my, now my fabric.
So you just prepare it?
Yep.
Okay,
so this piece has already been, the adhesive has already been applied to the back of it, and this is pressure sensitive adhesive, so it's tacky on the other side, which works really well in conjunction with the tackiness that's on the mat.
Let me change sides with you, okay?
So the next thing I would do is I would lay this down on the cutter, and you don't have to be too critical here, but you do want to get it somewhat straight. And I'm just aligning that left edge. I'm not even paying attention to the horizontals right now.
And this is a tacky thing. Do you have to?
Tacky.
Does this run out of tackiness?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
But if you use some,
I never run out of tackiness.
Neither do I.
Okay.
If you take care of your mats, and what I mean by that is if you scrape up the little leftover bits with your spatula, and you give them a wipe down every now and then with a non-alcoholic wipe, and then you put the protective cover back on the mat. It'll really hold on to the life of that mat.
Am I doing this right?
Yes. So
okay, so let's get it in the printer.
So this is a squeegee, and you would just use this to get
the bubbles out.
Yep, get the bubbles out. All right. So then you load the mat into the digital cutter, and you just align a point on the mat, maybe the horizontal markings or this large purple line, which is what I like to do, with this white line that is on the digital cutter.
Okay.
And once that's lined up, you know the mat's straight in there. And then you would come over to the software.
All right. I am so excited.
And you're going to say File and export the design to the cutter. So it's gonna,
It's doing
it
its
just moved a little bit.
Yeah.
And there are these jog buttons on here, left, right, up, and down.
Okay.
And you're going to jog these buttons over, and using the laser, there's a red dot, a laser guide that's gonna show up on the mat in a second, and then the material.
There it is, yeah.
Okay.
That is a knife in there, I understand that. Okay, now what do we do?
So you jog it over in place.
Okay.
And to get some really fine movements, you would hold down your shift key.
Okay.
Okay, what you want to do is get that really lined up in that uppermost left-hand
Let's do
corner.
it.
Okay?
Here we go.
Okay. And then you would click on your cut button.
Okay.
And
Do I want to close?
in a second, it's going to cut the design. And it cuts it really fast. This should take about...
Is it cutting right now?
It's cutting right now. It should take about 10, 15 seconds, actually, for this particular piece.
Do most of the cutters cut at this speed?
All cutters cut at different speeds. This one cuts across the bed of the machine in about a half a second.
Would that be a consideration in looking
Yes,
for this?
yes.
Okay. That's it?
That's it. Now we get to do the unveil, which is the fun part.
What, are you guys like, ooh, a little bit, I want to say.
So then you would take your mat out of the machine, just to press on the two levers and bring it over. And you would use your tool, your spatula tool, just to lift that fabric up.
Does that come with it?
No, this is something you have to purchase separately.
Okay.
And then you just slowly just lift this fabric away.
Oh.
And I'll talk about, so now when you want to place a design onto your quilt top,
You got to get it off this thing.
you got to get it off here.
Okay.
So I like to use these tweezers, and I create Mosaic art quilts, and I really use these fine surgical tweezers, but they're costly. So I tried to find something that would be more cost effective, and also another thing that about these tweezers is that they're silver and they're matte. So when I lay them down on my Mosaic quilts, they kind of disappear, and I'm like, where are my tweezers?
Yeah. So then you found these.
So then I found these, and these are on a tool supply company called Granger.com.
Okay.
And what I like about them is they have multiple tips. You definitely want a precision set of tweezers. You don't want to use the ones out of your makeup cabinet.
Right.
So these are a splayed blade, which means they're just a little wider and flatter for these larger pieces to peel them off the mat. And for the smaller mosaic pieces that I do, you would want to use these, which have a real fine tip to them. And they come in various lengths for your hand, for comfort in your hand. Okay.
Well, let's go look here real quickly what we have going on. What do you guys think about all that? Yes. So did you draw this?
Yes. No, actually, the jar I got from a clip art, a free clip art online.
And this is all fabric. When I came to set, I thought it was paper. Let's just take a look at what you've built here and what is possible with a digital cutter.
And what I love about, or what I really want to share with you about the digital cutter is just how beautifully it cuts these small, intricate shapes. And you can basically cut any font that you want with it.
And with that, here's this.
Yep, and this is just a different color segue. Show you.
Loving on it. Now, we know the basics of digital cutting. I know you want one, I know I want one. But up next, Ricky will be with Heidi to show you exactly how she does her mosaic pieces, because the pieces, as we mentioned in the show and tell, are not all the same size, and it's with this that she can create her magic. Stick around.
Day with Heidi Proffetty, and I have to say the last segment is like a 101 in digital cutting, but this is like a college crash course in how to put your quilts together, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about it, starting with your original photo.
Okay, so I pick an inspirational photo to me, and once I have picked that photograph, then I bring it into a Illustrator program, graphic art program, and I do a couple things here. I'll posterize it, and I'll size it to what I think I want the final dimensions of my quilt to be.
Okay, and I'm going to say posterize use is a filter, like in Photoshop or something, that will create these kind of darker lines that are not part of the original photo, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then what?
And then I will come along with that printout. I print this on my home printer, and I tile the pages together. And then what I do is I come along and I identify these larger sections, contours of the cheek, highlights, the various sections, and then I fill them in with my mosaic shapes.
Okay, is that hard? Because I realize it's the actual photograph is blending. Are you just kind of looking at maybe where like the ocean layers are changing and just go with that?
Yep, and I'll also reference my original photograph as well, so kind of as a guideline. But there's a little, you know, it's a little.
And with your pencil, you do, so the entire page here is going to get covered with your big sections and subdivided.
Yes, and then I go back in and fill them in with these irregular mosaic shapes.
Okay, and that's kind of what's happening here, except in order to get this more substantial, you've got a special tool for that.
Yep. So for the lighter sections, I will outline all of the shapes with the Sharpie pen. And for the darker sections, this is really nice, I use a silver gel pen, and it will show up on the darker sections of my drawing. Then once the drawing has completely been drawn, I will either take this to a copy shop and have it scanned and imported into my computer where I start to make a tracing of it, or I'll put this up on my design wall and I'll take a photograph of it and import that image into my software.
And that would be the easier way, because then you don't have to get in the car.
Right.
Right? Sure. All right, so now you're moving into the iPad, is that right?
Yes.
All right.
So I could use the software to trace my image. My image here is this drawing has been brought in like a backdrop. And what I'm going to do is I could use the computer to trace with the mouse, but I designed this way to be portable and on the go, okay?
Let me say that again. What you're about to do, you could just go ahead and do in your computer, and you could be at the desk or even on a laptop, but you love the flexibility of working on the iPad.
Correct.
So this could be done alternatively, but we're doing it today just the way you do. All right.
And I bring it into an app called InkPad, and it's just a vector tracing app. And what I will do now is just open up this, pinch it open.
Wow, you're zooming crazy in.
And I will pick my pen tool, and I'm going to come along here using this pencil and just trace my shapes.
So this is great because you get to use, it feels like you're using a real pencil, sort of.
This
okay,
is
it's not
really
a real pencil,
nice.
but it gives you that real feeling.
Yes.
And I'm looking at your drawing, and I'm seeing that this really does look like a pencil. Or whatever you did before to draw it, and now you're creating real digital lines.
Correct. And that's going to become ultimately my digital pattern that the cutter will recognize to cut the pieces.
You're going to do that for the entire
whole
drawing,
design.
Okay.
Yep. And I'm going to show you, I'll show you that. So,
so this design.
okay, when I touch this, that shows you how that whole design has been traced. So it's just a tracing of my pencil drawing.
And really, that's what we need, because ultimately, that's what's going to cut out your pieces.
Correct.
All right?
Yep.
So, all right, so then you save this as a file?
I import that, yes, I save it as a file, and I export it as an SVG. That's a cutting file. Okay, it's recognized by the digital cutter. And then save this image into Dropbox is what I do. And then pull that image out of Dropbox and into the program. So that's just a vehicle to transport.
All right, so now you're in your computer where you are gonna have to spend some time not being so portable. Because the laptop is kind of portable.
Yeah.
So now we're going to spend some time now doing what?
Okay, so now the drawn image is in the background, and on top is my digital drawing.
Are you able to separate those visually?
Yes. Okay, and I could move this out of the way. Oh, actually, I'll show you this way.
Okay.
I'm going to turn off my backdrop. I'm going to hide it. Okay? And that's going to show you the whole
And I can see you've got
design.
some things already colored in. All right, cool, all right.
So I'm going to turn that back on again. Okay, now using my original photograph and my palette, my color palette, that comes with the software, but in addition to that, I've added some additional coloring using this color tool, which gives me the hex codes. So I will take this up to my photograph.
I see what you're saying. So you maybe put the photograph, if you're looking for a certain thing, you go find that just that green.
And it gives me that code.
And it gives you the code for what color swatch that would be.
Exactly, and I add that color chip to my palette. So
and
now
that becomes a library of colors that you've got at your fingertips.
Yep. And then I'm going to zoom in here. I'll come along and I will just simply start picking the pieces and I'll fill them in. This kind of is a mauve-y color. So I will look at my color palette and just pick a mauve, okay?
And if it's not quite right, you could change it.
I can change it, right.
But now you've just added a brand new color to the overall design.
The finished design, correct.
And on this design, how many colors did you end up with?
So on this design, this is the final design here, and there's a total of 67 colors.
Wow, so that means 67 fabrics.
Right.
67 fabrics that are gonna get cut out.
Right.
All right, now, how do you then separate those fabrics so that you cut out only those fabrics?
Right.
This is the magical trick for me.
This is fun. Okay, so I just pick a color in my design and I right-click on the chip, the palette chip, and I say select by and fill color.
Select by fill color.
And what's going to happen is it's going to just pick those pieces of my design that are colored.
Can you zoom that in a little bit so we can see? So just the green ones are selected here. I can see those little dots, all right? And then what do you do?
I'm going to right-click and select copy.
So you've only copied that color.
Just that green color. And then I'm going to open up a new tab, a blank canvas, a new finish, and I'm going to paste them in. Okay. Okay.
So now I get it. So those are those shapes for that one fabric, and you're able to, now they look like they're all spaced kind of crazy.
Yes, so this, I would select them all, and I'm going to say ungroup them because they're grouped together as one segment. And I'm now, once they're ungrouped, I can move these pieces over. And the reason that I'm doing this is so that I don't waste my fabric.
Yeah, frugal fabric, right? Because the closer the pieces, like any applique, the closer the pieces are together, the more efficient you're using your fabric. That is awesome, okay? So, now what do we talk about next? Do we talk about cutting those, or do we talk about the fabrics?
So once your design has been fully colored, and this is a fully colored design, the next thing I do is I start thinking about what kind of fabrics I want to use. And I like to pick an assortment. First of all, the fabrics that I work with are batiks and hand dyes because they're tightly woven and they work really well with a digital cutter when you apply starch to them. Okay, so then the next thing I'll do is I'll pick a nice range looking at my digital pattern and looking at my original photo of values.
And I can see all of that, from the greens to the lips to the facial tones and all of that.
Exactly.
And I'm going to go to this one because you give it a name.
Yes. So to keep myself organized, the color is Sprout in my palette, and I will name my color chip, my fabric chip, it's Sprout. So that's how I know to keep myself organized and pick those fabrics.
Okay, so when you create that new swatch in the computer, you call it Sprout.
Sprout.
And then as you know that that's Sprout, then you go find a piece of fabric and you call it Sprout.
Exactly.
Duh, okay? And then look at this. This is insane right here. This is fabulous organization.
When you're working with 67 colors and cutting by color, which is what I do, you got to keep some kind of system together. So I'll organize all of the face pieces, for example, and what I'll do is these little color chips are all the fabrics that I'm going to be working with.
Well, let's just say the ones, maybe they weren't, but the ones that we just highlighted and copied on them, let's just say it was Sprout.
Yes.
So when you say go cut that out and you do it, what do?
I put a check mark on it and I'm done.
Ta-da-da-da-da-da.
That tells me I'm done cutting that color. I can move on to the next color.
Oh, that's fabulous. And you do that for all of them.
Yep.
And so then this is the cutout of Sprout, right? All right, and let's just bring it over here because then do you just peel it off and you have your shapes?
Yep. So I would remove this, and you're left behind are the shapes that you're working on for that color, the Sprout color.
Okay, now, obviously, this is a jigsaw puzzle that's got to get put together. So we're just doing one shape right now to show you how it gets cut out, but you have to put this puzzle together. So how do you then create the template for that? Okay,
so because my quilt size is 24 by 18, I create, my cutting surface is 15 by 15. So I have to divide my templates up into quadrants in order to fit on my cutting mat. And once I have cut each one of those 4 sections of the templates out of freezer paper.
You know what I want to do? I'm going to pull this back because I want to show this a little bit better.
Okay.
Let's put that on this because you can see that better.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So is this two different? This is two different cuts.
Two different sections, two different cuts. Yes. So pretend that this is two pieces of a 4-piece pattern, and then I will take when I cut them with a little bit of overlap. And I will lay...
I see that one and
yep,
that one.
and they line right up.
And because it's freezer paper, guess what, everybody?
Yep, it sticks to itself.
So iron, and it is done.
Right.
So that's how you were able to create a much larger piece of freezer paper, and you just told the printer to cut the lines, not the colors this time, right?
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing, because that then leaves us with the placement guide.
Yep.
You have to look, see, all the light bulbs are going off.
Okay, and now I would take my tweezers and I would take that sprout color that we talked about earlier and come along and weed those pieces using my digital drawing.
So let me bring this over because you're going to use this kind of as a guide as well.
Or you can use your computer, whichever you want. Okay.
And it's got the sticky back because it's the stainless
It has
seam
the
light.
adhesive on the back side
so it
already.
stays nice and in place.
It stays tacked.
And then you just build the jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
Really, that's what you do.
And then very carefully, I lift this whole template out of the way because it's no longer needed. And then you have, do you want to show the final design?
Do we want to show the final design? She's asking, do we want to show the final design? Well, maybe we should ask them if we want to show the final design. Alex, I'm just saying this is so exciting. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's what you left behind.
I think it's great. There's a couple of things. You could do this on a different color background. It doesn't have to be black, and we've got some samples that show different backgrounds. I'll just leave them there, Alex, because they're gonna grab those.
Okay.
And then one little tip about quilting this. Just give us the quilting tip.
Sure. So I like to use a clear monopoly thread in the top by Superior Threads and a fine weight bobbin thread. This is the black, and it's a micro quilter, 100 weight thread in the bobbin. Okay.
And you're using the top stitch thread needles?
Yep. If I sew this on my domestic machine, I use these fine needles. If I'm sewing it on my long arm, then the design is bigger. I use a different needle for that.
All right, and then just give us the quilting design. How do you go
so it's
through that?
just a meandering stitch, and I'll start and I chain on and just do the meandering stitch until that whole shape is filled in, and then chain off and come on to the next shape. And I just go through the whole design like that.
What do you think, everybody? I feel that it's very doable. And I have to say, because I'm a techno guy, you're getting me really hooked on looking at doing this.
Great.
I think this is just great. And I was watching it, out with the audience, and it's just like, I get it.
Right. Well, you know what? I also want to say this real quick. This is mosaics. This is what you do. But getting into the digital color cut around, all the kinds of different applique designs that you could do. I mean, you could go into a different direction totally.
Well, I love this show. It's a whole new world, and I think the audience is the same way. I went out during break. How many people have seen this? They're like,
I don't know.
So Heidi, thank you so much for coming and sharing. I know there are great things ahead of you.
Let's hear it for Heidi, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Absolutely love it. And I want you to know that Heidi lives on the East Coast, and she does have children, so she doesn't want to travel all the time, but she would love to visit some of you, right?
Right.
Perfect. And Ricky, thank you so much for taming of the shears.
Right.
That was really fun and a great
pleasure.
homage to Libby. So today was really, I'm inspired.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I can't wait to see what comes out of you. I know what comes out of you, and I like it. Just remember, everybody, it's a new day every day. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss the after set. So I took a workshop from Nancy Crow way back in the day, and she said to me, if you want people to take you seriously, you need to create your own space and take yourself seriously. And you have done that.
Yes,
Talk about your space.
So we added on, in addition to our house, and two things to accomplish, actually three things. One was a larger family room, a small pantry, and a studio to pull me up from the basement where I currently create and get into a room that had some natural lighting. And the room is 14 by 24 in length, about just under 1,000 square feet. So that's similar to what I was working with downstairs in the basement. So I have a lot of nice room now to work
But you've got views.
I have
that
views,
you didn't have
yes.
before.
And a bistro.
Yeah, it's like, I love that awning. It does look like a bistro. And speaking of the bees, which we've kind of alluded to, this is what I'm excited to hear from you. Tell us about your bees.
So our family, actually it was my husband and his friend, who is a third-generation beekeeper. They were talking, and one day after work he stopped over and he saw the hives, my husband did. And my husband came home and he told me about the hives, and he said, I think this is something that our family might like to do. So my husband's friend actually gave us our first package of bees. He purchased it for us. And he came out in May of 2017 and helped us with installing our package of bees into our new hives that we had bought. The hives that we bought are kind of interesting. They're traditional long straw hives on the bottom, but the honey collectors at the top are actually a fairly new invention by an Australian company called Flow Hive. And instead of using extracting equipment and strainers, we actually put in a long metal key into the hive, and it cracks these resin honeycombs that the bees cap honey in, and the honey flows right down the tubes into the jars.
Wow.
So kind of an interesting take on it.
And this is a family experience.
This is a family event. We're new to beekeeping, so we go out every weekend, the four of us, and we put on our bee suits. We look like Ghostbusters going out there. And each one of us has a job. My youngest daughter handles the smoker. My husband and my older daughter actually do the inspections, and we all kind of peer in and look. And my oldest daughter also does like the scraping of the burr comb and the propolis that builds up on the hive. They love it. Yeah.
So it being a family thing, you mentioned that there was a bit of a tragedy that has occurred already.
Yeah, so we had really high count of bee population by the end of summer, and that's what you want. You want a high number of bees in your hive so that they can survive the winter. And we were looking really good. We were very excited what was going to happen. Now, we knew we couldn't have a honey harvest the first year, but we were just happy that the numbers were up and that by next season we might have a strong colony and a honey harvest. And what had happened is in November, when we went out to do the winterization, we found out that we had lost one whole hive. Oof. And you know, there's a lot of reasons that can impact this: environmental, pesticides, mites. We cut, you know, it was a little bit sad for the kids and the family, but in the spring we did order a new package of bees, and we started over on that particular hive, and it's going strong right now. We're actually looking really well for the end of this year. So.
And then tell us about the blueberries, because I want to hear that story.
So this is our second season now, and we've had blueberry bushes that came over from my husband's grandfather's yard. And we built our house 20 years ago and planted those blueberry bushes. And we have never had a crop of blueberries that have been so unbelievable as since we've gotten the bees. So the bees are over there. We see them. We see them actually pollinating the flowers, and I see them on my different trees in my yard. So it's really quite...
It's just great. I mean, I know the plight of bees is a big thing right now, and it's just so nice to meet a quilter who actually has bees. That just makes me happy.
I know.
Makes me happy. So thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your story.
I can't believe today's show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heidi.